Today, I'd like to talk with you about coping with COVID-19. By now, it's quite clear to all of us that this brings some really significant challenges. The second wave of the pandemic is perhaps adding to even what we experienced before. And so in many parts of the world now, parents are concerned as children are going back to school and as businesses open up. And yet at the same time, as we experience new, higher levels than we've seen for some time of reporting of new cases. So there's lots of reasons to be concerned, very legitimate reasons. But my concern as a psychologist, I would say at least my primary concern, is the mental health perspective on all of this. Of course, there's reasons to be concerned about the financial implications for many people, to be concerned about the health, the physical health risks that are involved. But as I say, my concern is the stress that many people are carrying and the temptation to try to deal with that stress in unhealthy ways. And so I want to give just a couple of very practical pieces of advice. In fact, you might even judge them to be common sense, and they probably are. But I'm mindful of what Proust said when asked about wisdom, and he said that wisdom begins with living what we already know. And so that's what I want to encourage. And the first thing would be that I think it's vitally important from a mental health perspective that we cope with this stress in healthy ways. And what are those? Well, remaining active, physically active as we can. And I'm aware that there are constraints on activity levels and on exercise levels and a number of things of that sort. But finding ways to remain active, finding ways to continue to exercise. And if you lose some of those exercise options, doing the things that you can do. For example, many of us have felt curtailed in terms of certain forms of exercise. But stretching is a vitally important and valuable way of coping with stress in a very healthy way and quite a powerful way. Shaking your limbs, shaking your hands, shaking your arms, something that I've learned from Qigong, which is an exercise system, a practice system coming from China that I often make use of. Beyond that, I would mention attending to your breath. I've just released a series of breath meditations. But don't think that I said anything practically valuable, or I don't think I said anything in terms of the mental health implications or value of those exercises. But it is very clear that, in fact, attending to our breath is a powerful way of de-stressing. It's a powerful way of bringing relaxation. And it can be as simple as just noticing each breath as each is drawn in and as each is released. So if you haven't looked at those videos, I'd encourage you to do so from that perspective. And if you've already watched them, you might go back and take another look at them. But there's something you can do on your own. Certainly also possible to do many other things that you have found helpful in the past as ways of dealing with stress. So I'd encourage you to identify those. What has helped you in really hard times? Now's the time to do it. But let's also note the ways in which we can cope that are unhealthy and unhelpful. I think, for example, of excess use of alcohol or drugs. I think of an addiction to following the news cycle, even the news about COVID-19 and the pandemic worldwide. And of course, there's so much else in the news these days, national, political, ecological, and environmental, and on, that is just simply not helpful in terms of managing our stress. So pay attention to what enhances your sense of life and enhances your ability to cope, and what decreases that? What adds to your stress? Reduce your screen time. Manage that carefully. And the third and final thing that I would say is don't confuse social distancing with physical distancing. Of course, it's important that we maintain physical distance. But this is a crucial time to not be separated from family and friends and loved ones. And so it's vitally important that we find creative and healthy ways of staying in contact. I'd also encourage you to stay in contact with your community as you can. And if you're part of a spiritual community of any sort, to maintain connections with it or to find other spiritual communities online that you can connect with and that can continue to nurture your spiritual development and wholeness as a person. So these are just a few simple ideas. Do what you already are doing that's healthy, and try to allow those things to replace the things that are not so healthy. Take care of yourself, take care of those you love, and spare some love for those who you don't know but have reason to be concerned about their well-being in these circumstances too. Bye for now.